to our next speaker. And I'm excited. I got to know him very quickly right before this call, and it was pretty cool. So our next speaker, Jerry Duggan, is the CEO and senior consultant of BTR Impact LLC, a consulting and training company focused on helping leaders define success on their terms so they can live fulfilled, meaningful lives with impact and not lose their faith, their families, or their health, which we all know is important, right? His work experience includes serving in the U.S. Army as a combat medic, corporate training facilitator, and organizational development leader. He has led in combat zones and corporate offices, learning the ins and outs of building teams and trust through servant leadership. Since 2015, Jerry has been the host and producer of Beyond the R.U.T podcast. I love that name, Beyond the R.U.T podcast, a show that shares encouraging stories and practical advice to help pull listeners out of their ruts and into the lives worth living. It's not enough to get out of a rut. He wants you to live beyond the rut. He currently lives in Dallas, Texas, with his wife, Olivia. He's an empty nester now. They have 2 children, 3 cats, a dog, and no car loans. I love that. With that being said, let's welcome Jerry Duggan. Thank you for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jose. I'm glad to be here. And one thing I just noticed as I'm watching everybody say their pieces, like Raphael, Jose, Brett, y'all have books behind you, and I've got toys. One of us did not show up with like the maturity of an adult
Hey,
here.
listen, if Toys R Us was open, I'd be there right now, at least after the show.
Oh man, my wife had to stop taking me there because something about being too embarrassing. Gotta make sure they work, right? Safety and all that. That's not why you guys got me on here though, right? It's to talk about what do you do when you feel like you're stuck in a rut, and what are the 5 F's? What are those? And so this ties in with the message of my podcast that's been around for over 7 years. It started with 3 of my friends. We wanted to have a show that would encourage people, inspire people to recognize the rut they're in, and then take action to get out of there. So we share stories of people who felt stuck in a rut, realized their moments, and took action. So they share their story, they share some practical advice. So if you're looking to live a life well lived, you're defining it on your terms, not somebody else's dream. And that's something I fell into. I was a pre-med student in college. What do I do today? I'm not a doctor. In fact, it turns out if you come out of a pre-med program with a 2.1 GPA, chances are you're not getting into medical school. And that was what I was faced with. Didn't realize I did not want to be a doctor, so I joined the Army to be a medic, served 4.5 years on a 4-year enlistment. Combat will do that. It'll extend you longer than you want to stay there. It wasn't until 2 years after I got out of the Army, my boss had asked me, hey, we want to send you to nursing school, and that kind of gets you on your path to become a doctor. When do you want to go? When do you want to start? And I hesitated. And it took everybody by surprise. And they said, you know what? Go home, talk about it with your wife, think about it, and let us know if that's something you still want to do. And I realized I did not want to be a doctor. That was never my dream. That was my mom's dream. And I realized she'd always been telling me as I was a kid, going through school, even after my parents divorced, she would just tell me from afar, you're going to grow up, you're going to become a doctor, you're going to be an officer in the Army. Because in her world, as somebody who immigrated from Thailand, she felt everybody who was rich was an officer in the Army. I had to tell her, no, there's a bigger world out there, Mom. I still joined the Army, but that's not the point. So I had to take some time to really reflect, what is it about life I want to live? How will I know that I've lived a good life, or I'm pursuing a good life? And so there are 5 areas of my life I look into, and that's what I call the 5 F's. So what are they? In order of priority for me, it's my faith. So what is that thing I strive for that's bigger than myself? For me, it's religious faith, but for somebody else, it could be a cause. a way they want to change the world. Maybe they want to end starvation. Maybe they want to end poverty. Those are faith-driven type of things. It's something bigger than yourself. And then the second F is your family. What are the most important relationships to you? Your parents, your siblings, your partner in life, your children, your community, and so on. The third F is your fitness. So it's not just physical health, but what's your emotional and spiritual health like? So are you really striving to be your best self on a health level? And then finances. Money is not the root of all evil. The love of it could be, but maybe not having enough is causing a lot of stress. So, finance is another one. And then future. What are you doing to grow yourself to live the life you've always dreamed of living? And all those come together. If you've got them all aligned and kind of balanced out in a sense, then you're pursuing a life that's worth living for you. And that is the thing that I look into on an annual basis. Actually, every 3 to 6 months, I do as well. And anytime I feel stuck in a rut, I go through this process. So you got to know your rut in order to live beyond that rut. And so, what is rut? R-U-T. The first step in that is R. Recognize the rut you are in. So hopefully, as part of your morning routine or your daily routine, you keep a journal, and you can just look back, a year from now, or a year ago, 2 years ago, last week. What are you complaining about the most? That might give you some clues on where your rut is in those 5 Fs. Maybe it just takes some time to reflect. How are things right now in these 5 areas of my life? And, something I also do is I just have a conversation with my wife. Hey, what do you notice? This is what I'm feeling. This is what I think is going on in my life. What do you see? And getting that outside perspective is also very helpful. So recognize that you're in a rut. What exactly is that rut I'm experiencing? And of all the things going on, what's that one thing that if I change it, that would make an impact on everything else? The U in rut is understand where it is you want to go. So now you're starting to look up. I'm a big hiker, and a lot of folks always look down to make sure they're not tripping over rocks and roots. But if you do that, you miss out on the vistas. You miss out on the deer that's maybe 20 feet away from you. And so I often say you got to look up and look forward to really enjoy the things around you. And that goes for if you're striving for a better future for yourself. You got to look up and look forward and just start thinking about, well, what is it I really want in my faith, family, fitness, finances, and future? And start drafting these things called goals, and make them smart. Why is it I want to pursue that goal? Why is it I want this to be a part of my life? Know that why. If you don't have goals yet, you got to have them. It's just people find the success they want more often if they have a written goal, they have some sort of commitment to action, they share that goal with somebody they trust, and then they give that person regular updates every week, whether that's a 4-week goal, a 1-year goal, a 5-year life plan. So understand where it is you want to go. You look up, you look forward, you think about all the possibilities, and you start forming those into goals that you have a committed action with, and you share it with somebody you trust and commit to giving them a regular update on your progress. The T is simple. Take action. And you just heard Jose say the same thing. You get a planner, you schedule time to use that planner, and then you execute your plan. And that's what the T is here. When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the next best time to plant a tree? Today, right now. When I was in the Army, we had this phrase called SP time, start patrol time. So what is your SP time? If you haven't already started your goals, if you haven't started living the life you dreamed of living, today is the day that you start doing that. And you take action and you live out and you execute those committed actions that you crafted in your goals. So that's what you have, the 5 Fs, your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, your outlook on your future. And then if you feel stuck in a rut, go through that 3-step process, recognize the rut you're in, understand where you want to go, and then take action to get there. Oh, Ivy,
Love
you
it.
love hiking? I love that. Awesome.